next scary story is called Fire Sale Fourplex. Here with the gory details, let's say hello to Casey Tom. How are you, sir?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm great. Now, you're a real estate broker. You work with a big company and you help people find investments, but you're also an investor yourself, and a lot has gone really well for you, but you do have a Halloween horror story. Tell us what happened, Casey.
Yes, I do. Well, I purchased a quadplex with a group of investors, and we renovated the quadplex and put tenants in it, filled it up, and 2 weeks after we filled it up, it was next to, it's a transitional neighborhood, so it was next to a crack house that had started on fire, and it burned down another quadplex that was under renovation, and that quadplex started my quadplex on fire. So after having just got the tenants in for 2 or 3 weeks, got a call at 2 in the morning, there's a fire, so I show up, news cameras are out there, they want me to ask questions. But in the end, I had insurance, so luckily I was able to re-renovate the property, put the tenants back in. But the gentleman that was renovating the other quadplex behind me actually didn't have insurance, so it was a complete loss for him.
Oops.
Yeah.
So let's come back to that. Walk us through the, first of all, was everybody okay?
Yeah, of course.
So everybody got out, and that's
yeah.
okay, right? So that's the most important thing. And when you get these calls, and I've had this very call,
right,
and the last thing you want is your property on TV, but it happens to the best of us. So now you've got tenants to deal with. They're misplaced. How bad? How severe was the damage?
Basically, 3 units were completely ruined, and especially the upstairs. After the fire was out, the water hose, sprayed in, went down to the bottom unit. So basically unlivable.
Unlivable.
Yeah.
So you had to manage getting the tenants relocated and placed in short notice.
Right. Yeah. So Red Cross came out, and they were very helpful at first. A handful of tenants had a place to go already, so they just went to stay with friends and family. And a couple of them we put in a hotel room for a couple of days until they could get something straightened out. But yeah, it was kind of a very stressful situation for everybody.
Now talk about the claim. So you had to obviously make an insurance claim, and that took some time. And then when that happens, you got a decision point to make, right? It's possible that you just cut your losses and sell the land and take the insurance proceeds, or you can rebuild. Which way did you guys go?
We went and renovated the property again and put the tenants back in. I think we may have been better off financially just knocking it down and selling the land, but we were committed to providing the housing for the people, so we wanted to get them back into the units, and it ended up being a good deal because we just actually sold that property, and everybody made 50% on their all the money that they had in after a year and a half. So it still ended up being a pretty good deal for us.
Pretty decent return there.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the neighbor who wasn't insured. Obviously, that's a big lesson. Maybe the biggest lesson in this is that ounce of prevention, right?
Right, yeah. And he ended up just selling his lot for, I think he had an offer on the lot with the house for like $100,000 at that point. And then after the fire, I think he got $40,000. And so all the money that he put into the property and the potential to sell it at a little higher price, he lost a lot of money. So
sometimes people who own a property outright think, well, I can take the risk, and that may be true. This guy might have the financial wherewithal to take the risk. It sucks when it happens.
Right.
When you have a loan, typically you don't have a choice. You're getting insurance.
Right. Yeah. So that's a positive of having a loan is they make you take some steps to protect your asset that you may not otherwise, and in the end, it's always best to insure your properties.
Now, did you have a loan on the property?
Actually, this one we didn't, but we chose to insure it anyway. It was basically unfinanceable when we bought it. We bought it from a wholesaler, vacant. It needed a lot of renovation, so we did that with all cash.
Well, and as a syndicator raising money from other people, you definitely want to make sure you have insurance in place, right? Because that kind of loss is hard to disclose, right?
Yeah,
beforehand or afterwards.
That would be a terrible conversation to call somebody up and say, hey, listen, all that money we just put into this property, it burned up. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, don't save money by going short on insurance. You always make decisions about how much deductible and how much coverage you have, but you want to make sure you're at least made whole, which is the whole purpose. So.
Right. Yeah. The one thing that we didn't do, which I would do in the future, is have some income loss insurance, because as they were renovating, it took about 5 months, I think, to get everybody back in. That's 5 months we didn't have the income. So.
Good point. Loss of rents is not automatically included in insurance policy. policies, and usually isn't. It's an additional rider. So if you're depending on the income from the property, it's always worth considering. A lot of times you'll buy a property with the intent to renovate it, put some tenants in, and then sell it, which is ultimately what you guys did. So you might make the decision, well, our primary exit strategy and return is going to come from selling. So if for some reason we didn't have rent during the 5 or 6 months of any problem, okay. But if it's a long-term buy and hold, certainly worth considering. So glad you brought that up.
Right, especially if you have leverage. We didn't have debt on it, but if we did, then we'd have to pay the mortgage and with no cash flow, which would not have been fun. So.
All right, well, that's one way to invest in a hot market. Thank you very much for sharing your story with us, Casey.
All right, thank you.